Hello everybody, this is Jose. Welcome back to another episode of the ForgeServ Let's Play. So today I want to get started with some cool upgrades for the entire system we have going for our sheep farm. The sheep farm itself is going pretty well, but it's not automatic as you know, but I wanted to make it a little bit easier for us to automate. So I'm getting started with a vacuum hopper. We're going to go ahead and paint it to look like a grass block, that way it's nice and disguised. And once we get it all painted up, we're going to hop on over there and just kind of set it in the middle, because the radius is going to cover exactly the area that we're going to need, and in fact a little bit extra. So the nice part about this setup is the fact that I'll be able to start shearing all the sheep without having to worry about if I got all the pieces or not, because I don't wear a magnet. I'm not generally too fond of them unless it's specific scenarios like a sky block or whatever. Normally they actually tend to get more annoying than you would imagine. So I am more than happy to go through and do something like this where a magnet is sort of customized and filtered, which is my problem with magnets right now, is there's a few things that get picked up that really shouldn't. So, that being said, it looks like we're going to go ahead and get everything down. I did forget to recolor my ender chest, but we can at least show a proof of concept here that if I use my Elementium shears to shear all the sheep in this pen, all the wool gets drug into the center and picked up by the vacuum chest. Of course, like I said, I did not recolor that ender chest like I should have, so we'll go back and fix that right here. So, I've got some pretty big plans for this episode. A lot of it is building. I do apologize for the fact that it's going to be a pretty boring building episode with a lot of speed cuts. Sort of just the nature of today's video, because I did want to kind of keep you informed with what all I've kind of been working on. So, as far as build stuff today, I'm going to redesign the basement as well as expand it massively because I want to work on a sort of archive. But first, as you can see, it's time we get to work on this alternate power room. This is in the second floor, if you will, of our house, or I guess it's our first basement instead of our second basement. Nonetheless, it's kind of always stayed dirt like this, so it's about time that I actually get around to doing things right like I should, and actually bothering to change the walls out and make it look like it's part of a house instead of, you know, part of some sort of like ancient something. I'm not really sure actually where I'm going with that. But yeah, definitely should be handled with a little bit more care as far as the aesthetics of it all go. So I want to match the walls to what's already on the other side, since obviously it's sharing the same wall. So once we get those matched up, the next concern is, as you've seen, I've chiseled and bitted the ceiling because it was right on grass level outside. So to avoid having a big patch of tempo blocks, I just replaced the thinnest layer. The downside to this is the fact that there's no way to get grass to grow on it, and by grass I mean tall grass, but that's just fine with me, to be honest. It's something I can live with. You can kind of see the area out here. It's a little bit bald, can't plant anything on top of it. But you know what? Like I said, I can live with that. It's one of those kind of small sacrifices to make. So let's get started on the new basement, shall we? So the new basement is going to use a lot of laboratory blocks. I'm a huge fan of these because they're a nice white, clean room kind of block. There was a concept for a mod back a few years ago that I don't remember all the details of anymore, but it had this really beautiful clean room aesthetic, and I want to say it was made by the same author as the Unity resource pack author. So the design that I've come up with in single player testing involves sheet metal floors, because something about the way that they extend without actually having connected textures is really nice to bring a room together, especially with the contrast in color on the floors. So I want to grab a few things to make making the sheet metal a little easier, since it uses iron plates. So I'm going to use my metal former from IC2, and I'm just going to set up a little chest here, and it's going to have a single conduit with an input-output system, and I will need to grab a filter for it. I did forget one, but don't worry, I'll get one. And it'll basically be important to go ahead and have everything set up so that it inputs and extracts on the right channels, but I want to make sure that we can get lead automatically plated for us, because we're going to use a lot of lead plating. Alright, filter obtained. Let's go ahead and whitelist lead only. That'll be very important. And now just to test and make sure everything is working okay. It looks like that lead plate's not going to get sucked back in there and turned into a lead item casing, which is pretty good, because lead item casings I don't think even have a purpose. So I'm going to get some redstone inverted wireless powered lights. So a normal powered light from Ender.io covers a very bright, wide area in a room. However, it requires power, and the power has to come from a conduit. The wireless powered light can get power from a wireless charger. So that's why I've made 4 of them, and inverting them makes it so that they don't require a redstone signal to turn on, and when receiving a redstone signal will actually turn off, instead of the other way around where they work similar to a redstone lamp in vanilla Minecraft. So the inversion is nice, but these are a nice solution for a room like this and the new room that I'll be building, or really more showing off. I don't build the new big room from now on to be called the archive. I don't end up building the archive on camera because it was a very long and tedious process to dig it out. But I'm going to go ahead and replace everything here to match the style of the archive that I have planned, because I think the combination of some color with some clean room white is going to be really gorgeous. And with our lighting situation handled, I think we'll be good to go. So let's get started. So at this point we're in fast forward mode. It's going to take quite a few minutes to actually get this all done, even at 300% acceleration, which is what this is at now, what the footage is at now. But I did some careful calculation. It's going to require 40 orange and 40 light blue anti-block to cover the walls for these areas. Part of the reason why I do orange and blue is because along with that clean room feel, I have some deep nostalgia for Portal. I think Portal is a fantastic game. I think the color scheme from it needs to be used more, in my opinion. Not because orange and blue are fantastic colors together, although they are. They are complementary colors. Or rather, supplementary colors. Get art knowledge, jeez. But aside from them being supplementary colors, they are also very much so resemblant of that whole Portal feel. And I feel like with the orange and blue to remind you of a Portal gun itself, and then the white walls to remind you of Aperture Laboratories, it kind of just takes you into that feeling that I liked from Portal, of sort of a sterile environment where science was first and human well-being was second. That's of course not the standard that I have in my own life or on ForgeServ, but I like that feel whenever I'm doing something really technological or advanced like this entire basement area. I did kind of make a personal vow to not build underground as much, but this was one of those things that if I built it above ground, there was no way to make the inside look cool like this and have the outside look good. After a while, the outside would become very, very, very plain. And the issue with it being plain is caused by the fact that there are no windows, and I would not put in any windows. That would break away from that feeling that I like so much of sterility. So windows are something that really break apart the outside of a house, and short of windows on a house, which I didn't want, you could implement some dimension on the walls by adding, like, you know, blocks in a layer deep, like I have on my walls here, where the anti-blocks are a layer or one block further in than the laboratory blocks, but it really just depends. So we went and grabbed some of our lead plating to get the floors done, because like I said, I think lead plate's going to look really good, or lead sheet metal rather. So here's what the sheet metal looks like. It comes from Immersive Engineering. We do have Immersive Engineering on the server. So very fun. So this is the finished product for the most part. Don't mind the weird gaping hole over here. You'll see why it's there in just a minute. So I'm going to craft some Fissura blocks, because at this point in the video I have already taken the time to dig out and decorate the alternative now to be called Archives room, and you can see it here. I've decided to go with Fissura blocks for this transition area here. I don't really know why. I think it's a really unique style that I went for. I don't really know why I chose it, but I thought it was kind of fun. Something to kind of bring about almost a feeling of going through space or time, or both, as you're going into this bigger room, which is going to be filled with some insane stuff. So the plan is to move all of the storage drawer storage from the old room, the old basement, into this much larger room with many more storage drawers, which will all be decorated the exact same way, of course, as well as implement a crap ton of crafters. I've run into an issue as of present time with crafters not being, or with my network basically not able to handle after a certain amount of crafters. I don't know if this is intended or if it's a bug as to why I can't add as many crafters as I wanted to, but it's just kind of what we have to deal with. So for the time being, you'll see it later down the road, but I have gone through and used bookshelves alongside some of the crafters to make sure. Here you can see proof that the lights and the Ender IO lights do require redstone by default, so yeah, I forgot that, so we'll have to invert it. Kind of a pain in the butt, but I understand. It's not really atypical of Minecraft stylization. So there we go. Like I said, here's the archive room. Huge, really bland right now, but it'll be fun, so I'll see you guys next time when we fill it.